Hello, it's Mike Rasmussen. It is April 29th on Wednesday. Got a lot to share today again. And there were some press releases and articles that come out. The SBA site regarding the Paycheck Protection Program is slowly accepting applications. So it's really just the comments out there are it's just a snail's pace, and many lenders are working 24/7. So welcome to CPA, Straight Talk for Small Business Owners. What I want to do today is go through, pick up where I left off yesterday, which is what do you do while your potential PPP loan is in progress. And one of the other reasons why I go through the site and some different websites, especially if they're HTTPS like SBA.gov and IRS.gov. And the reason why is that I'm going to point you to is that a lot of our reliance on guidance is date specific. So what I wanted to do was to basically walk you through, where it tells us that, and let me get you there. So again, I hope you're having a great day. And I will jump you in and show you, let's go to a couple articles that are out there right now. So the first one that came out was Mr. Mnuchin, who is the secretary that has been actually spearheading the entire PPP loan process. And this is actually pretty frightening, if you will, but it gets into it's basically they're going to go after any applicant that had a greater than $2 million loan, and they're going to perform an audit, the Secretary Mnuchin says here. So one of the reasons was it looks like not only of the initial 349 billion and the latest one, 310 billion in PPP funding, but there were about 220 public firms that went after about 870 million in funding. And a lot of the companies they're saying right here have been apologizing, but over the next, by May 7th, I believe it is, that they'll be able to basically give the money back and no harm, no foul. So if not, they're going to be audited per this article. And that means what this is telling all of us is that there's going to be procedures. And the procedures are how they're going to go after these 2 million companies that actually got 2 millions in PPP. What's that mean for all of us? What that means for us is that there's going to be some guidance down the road that is going to show us exactly how the U.S. Treasury is going to audit the forgiveness of funds at 8 weeks in a day, which is all I'm focusing on, what I'm helping people focus on right now. So when you receive a PPP loan and you have 8 weeks to spend it a certain way, specifically, and if you do it a certain way, the forgiveness should be 100% if you've followed all the rules. What are all the rules again? Again, I am back at mycovidcpa.com, which is where I'm storing all of these articles for you. And if you actually go to our calculator, which is right here, and you scroll down to the bottom and we click here to get to the calculator, I've got all of the treatises or guidance that is listed for the program. So for example, is the Family First Act, and then it's the CARES Act, and then it's the latest act. And again, just open this like we did yesterday, this will show you right now that the SBA's interpretation of the CARES Act, which is what these what frequently asked questions are, the U.S. government will not challenge the lender PPP actions to conform to this guidance, but and one thing to point out here is any subsequent rulemaking in effect at the time. So what this is saying is that Mr. Mnuchin is now saying for loans over $2 million at the end of the 8 week, and look, when a client that received a PPP loan goes to the lender for forgiveness, they're basically saying, we're going to audit that transaction. We're going to audit the initial applications that were applied for and certified with the bank. So when a applicant went to and filled out this certifications, and let me go to the borrow certifications. When an applicant went in here and filled out this form and not only represented the payroll information for average monthly payroll and all of that, and employees and ownership, but that individual, the applicant, was also certifying here in answering these questions. Some of them, they had to actually do put their initials here. And then most of them were yes or no. Well, when you get down to the certifications and authorizations, these are the certifications I've read, I'm able to receive. All SBA loans will be used only for related purposes as specified in the loan app. And so when you're going through, and then you've actually, the applicant's in operation at February 15th, certain economic uncertainty makes this loan request necessary to support the ongoing operations of the applicant. So what Mr. Mnuchin is doing here, the U.S. Treasury is saying, is that of these public firms that went out and secured PPP, although technically they could have, that wasn't the spirit and the intent of this program. So some of these companies should be apologizing, and so it was conducting audits of someone could prove to be a near impossible undertaking. So here it is, and this was the other guidance for us. I wanted to point this out for you. So for these public firms, in a typical SBA environment or loan, which this is a initial grant before it becomes a loan in 8 weeks and a day, if it does turn into a loan by the lender, it's the lender that is going to be auditing and basically proving the records, not the SBA. If it's over 2 million, it's now the U.S. Treasury is going to take on that task, if not in conjunction with the lenders. So here it says right here, the SBA usually leaves audits to the individual lenders. Okay, that is the spirit of the law. That is the spirit of what's going on. And so if you go over here to another article that talks about the balancing act between the PPP's letter and the spirit of the law, what this article talks about is the very same thing, is that the Paycheck Protection Program was to retain employees under the CARES Act and to allow small business, which was defined under 500 employees, to retain employees until the pandemic really subsided and they would get back to full speed. Obviously, a lot of assumptions were put into that, but that was the spirit of it. So when you had, technically, you had these public firms, public companies going after this money, it created a real, it wasn't intended for the spirit of it. And so what happens is when you go into, let's go into like right here, which is the April 26th, that's where these frequently asked questions come up, is these are addressing the spirit of what the intent of the CARES Act was, that lenders need to follow. Okay, a couple days, in fact, all this week, what I was explaining to y'all is the U.S. government's going to hold harmless the lenders on how they interpret, on how they execute and interpret, but they obviously need to do good faith in following these FAQs. So we're anticipating, you can see right now, in fact, I'll show you that down, we are up to, I did this yesterday, we're up to 36, question 36 was published April 26th, which would have been Sunday. So we are constantly watching these, and where do I watch where they come up. I actually go to the Paycheck Protection here. This is SBA.gov. I'm going to poke around and see right now, frequently asked questions of 42820. So I know here's a potentially new one, and I'm going to look and see. And here's April 28th. And this was April 26th. So what I wanted to show you was that here already are new guidance. And let's go down to the bottom, and where it was 36 was the last time on April 20. Here's question 37, April 28. So what I'm sharing with you is that every day, why I'm doing this every day, is this primarily was for as making the loan. So all of the process up to now has been just the money's there. What procedures do we follow and guidance from the CARES Act to be able to issue a paycheck protection loan, and based on certifications from the borrower is making representations. So what types? I mean, and then one of the major ones is once you receive that loan and it starts the 8 week and a day, this little area right here, the average monthly payroll number of employees, this is going to be a area that at the end of the 8 week and a day, already the U.S. Treasury is stepping in and say, okay, you already took advantage of the program. Here, if you got a loan of over $2 million, if you haven't sent it back by May 7th, we're already going to start talking to you. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to make sure I go in and find out what that audit is going to look like. What procedures are the U.S. Treasury going to look like? So I'm anticipating that we're going to be getting a lot of guidance here. Here is April 26th. And so I go to the site every day, and now I got another one that we need to deal with. So, and this one has to do with, do the businesses. Oh my gosh, this is, you can see what 37 was. Do businesses owned by private companies with adequate sources of liquidity to support the business's ongoing qualify for a PPP loan? Go back up to 31, and what's it do? Businesses owned by large corporations in it, and so basically here it is. Lenders may, this was a specific update to the SBA guidance where it says lenders may rely on a borrower certification regarding the necessity of the loan request. Any borrower that applied for prior to the issuance of this guidance and repays the loan will be deemed by SBA to have made the required certification in good faith. Basically, they filled out the application and checked the box right here when they originally did it, that I understand that I'm doing current economic. That is right there addressing, do I say abuse? I'm going to say basically stretching, changing the spirit of the law. Okay. So then the next one is right here. I understand that loan forgiveness will be provided for the sum of documented payroll costs, covered mortgage, covered rent, and not more than 25% of the forgiven amount may be for non-payroll counts. Now, when you actually go to the CARES Act and you go to section 1106 in the CARES Act, which what I'll be doing really to point everybody is if you actually go to the CARES Act and you go to when it, and then where you want to go is to 1106 right here, which is loan. It's actually called loan forgiveness. And if you scroll down, there's there's law of basically what the loan forgiveness is going to be. Okay. When you're looking at what it was, and I'm not going to jump in there right now. I'm not there. So the loan forgiveness, here's the law. Then I'm going to jump back to the guidance for every day and go back and then interpret what that forgiveness is going to be. So why I'm saying all that is that what's now going to happen is once you actually receive your funds for the Paycheck Protection Program, you're now going to start looking at where do you spend those, and how you spend those is based on the guidance that continues to come out, not only for just the core CARES Act, but also for maybe higher level. What are they going to look at with $2 million program or applicants that got the $2 million and above? What are they going to be looking at? Because in the end, if your goal is to be 100% forgiven for your loan, then you need to follow all the guidance. And as you can see, there is no doubt going to be more guidance given and then more scrutiny given, because I don't believe, because the spirit of the law is not being followed by a lot of the applicants. And it was done in such a hurry that you know, it was just a big rush because of the economy and because of what's out there. So what we need to do now is look ahead a little bit. And again, I'm going to make some assumption right now that you have got your program, you have either submitted your loan and it's in kind of an approval process right now. Every day for the last couple of days, I've been hearing people that actually went through and have got word from their lender, from the bank, that they have got a certification, they've got their SBA number, and that's great. What you need to be looking and do something in the meantime, just don't be sitting idle, is jump into here to My COVID CPA, jump down to credits, because what I want you to do, not that just in case the loan doesn't go through or they run out of funds, and regardless, you need to do this anyway, you need to be going in here to every employee and from, I used to be saying March 13th forward, but I'm even going to back up to February 15th. And the reason why I'm going back to February 15th is you want to prove that you meet one of the qualifications on the applications, which is, were you in business at February 15th? Great. So we have that. Then from March 13th, if for some reason I'm looking ahead over here, and what are the things that you can do regarding this whole ecosystem of SBA and how any programs out there that can help you and support your business launch back into as you've reinvented yourself, what can you also be thinking of today to while it's in limbo, or you have not, maybe you've been approved, maybe you've not been approved, but what can you do to paperwork wise to be ready if you're approved, or ready if the funds run out, because so many loans are being processed through the lenders, and now the latest 310 billion second funding has run out. Okay, so either way, you're going to want to, if you choose to apply, to basically jump and switch gears immediately once you find out you did not get a number, because it's very possible that from this day forward, when this next money runs out, it might be another month. And you just really made to make a hard decision and go, wow, what's the next option that I can do to get a little relief by paying employees, or that I have already paid? That's where the employer retention credit comes in. So we've gone over this several times, going over it again. Start from February 15th. I'm even going to back it up to then. And then especially from March 13th, you go back in and determine your every employee that was on your payroll, and you categorize them by here 1 to 6, and you are going to save those. And if there is, because you can't do both at least until we get guidance, you can't do both the employer retention credit and get a paycheck protection program advance, which might turn into a loan if it's not forgiven. You need to have all your employees identified, and some of them you may have been paying because they were quarantined, some just the family leave if they were a category 5 caring for a son or daughter. But either way, you need to have all that together if your payroll company hasn't already been doing that. If you're doing some of the big programs are already keeping track of it. I've seen a couple of reports from the big programs that actually bigger payroll providers in the country that give a pretty darn good. And they actually say, I'm assuming what they do is you'll actually go in and say, here's the date that it all happened, and this person was employed at that point. And then they segregate out how a lot of this information automatically. That's just a major benefit that you're going to get. In fact, we used a lot of it for doing the applications on the original borrow PPP applications. Okay, go in if you haven't already done this, but even if you've tipped off your payroll processor, do it yourself. And we're coming up with we will have a tool for you to use that you're going to be able to do such a thing and enter the information in even outside of your payroll company every day that we can then document. Because what do we want? We want to be able to stand there with your lender. And of course, even last week when I encouraged someone to go do it, they jumped on with they actually went to their lender last week and talked to the lender and said, we're just gonna let you know, here's what we're doing. We want complete forgiveness at 8 weeks in a day. And here's what we know today. I actually give them, well, they go to the site and they're actually pulling off different, the borrower, who's a client of mine, is pulling off the latest act from our site and actually giving it. Now go, here's how we originally implied, and here's how we're keeping track of payroll costs during this period. And the banker response was, okay, you're about the only one that's doing this. We are thinking ahead. Again, the motivation for my client was to get complete loan forgiveness. And we are going to do everything we can. I'm going to tip them off. We're going to create a tool so that the lender, it's like it should be check the box on 8 weeks in a day. Okay, that's what I'm working on. So then the other one is as you receive the money, I'm going to go back to the unemployment. Okay, so March 13th, you shut down and you are just now waiting for your PPP loan. Maybe that's just one bucket, and your employees have said, wow, if you do open up, I would like to come back. So they might be furloughed, or they might be complete, you had to let them go because and now from that point that this has happened, you have been following me and you've redone your plan. You've actually redone your a business plan, if you will, short little model of what it's going to look like at 8 weeks in a day. And you said, wow, I need to, if I get my PPP funding, I'm immediately going to let people know that are unemployed and offer them back a position, because that's what the monies, the spirit, right? That's what the spirit of this, the balancing act, spirit of the law was supposed to be. So I'm going to offer back. The employee may say no. So then I'm going to have a system in place to request the unemployment documentation, so that if that employee turns me down and I'm an employer and I made a good faith and I actually have the unemployment documentation, I need another person to fulfill that slot, and I can go out and hire another full-time equivalent so that I can get back in business and spend the PPP money based on the CARES Act and the intent of the law. Simple. I promise it's simple. So going back to keeping track of your employees. So on the unemployment side, here's another thing that you can do is right now, while you're possibly in this limbo, if an employee that you furloughed is on unemployment, number one, get a hold of that person if you want that person back, and start the process of saying, I have a PPP loan in, and if it comes in a week and I get funded, are you going to, would you terminate your unemployment with the state, which would also terminate the unemployment with the Fed under the CARES Act? And would you then come back to work? And here's what I'm going to be offering you there. If the answer from the employee is no, you immediately ask the employee to provide you documentation of unemployment. So in this So you know for sure that if that person is not going to come back and work and or has another job somewhere, and you're able to, when you get your monies, you need to start recruiting for other to get back up to where you feel your full-time, get back to where your full-time equivalents were that you represented on your original your PPP borrow application. Okay. All right. That's the unemployment. Okay. So where else are we today? So I would say I got just a few minutes left. What happened is I walked you through and went to the SBA site, and what did we do? We found a new rule at the bottom that I've got to consider, which is guidance right now. I also took you to so what's been happening out there. There is if there's any situation where applicants, borrowers took advantage, certified, but on the original application that they needed the money or whatever, but which wasn't intended for the spirit of the law, we can obviously see that there is going to be, from the secretary here, from the U.S. Treasury, they're going to create situations to come enforce that, which is obviously some more guidance that's going to be coming out as they come out. So where do you find this info? You would go to mycovidcpa.com, which you've done in the past, and then I would then start walking through. I still don't believe it's too late, although it's Wednesday and I know lenders are just spending 24 hours a day trying to process what they have, but submit an application. It can't hurt. It starts getting all your information organized. And that's probably one of the hardest part, is to get all your information organized. Here's a list of all the required docs under PPP. We've actually supplied it. This is a partner that we have that we're able to last minute here have a special link that actually allows you to apply and get information to a potential lender this late in the game. But here's all the information that you should be having, and you should have it at your fingertips anyway. And we will be talking about that in a few days as we create a way for you to start accumulating, because rest assured, there's going to be more guidance, or there is going to be another opportunity, more guidance, something that's going to come at you, and it's going to be where opportunity meets preparedness. And by getting all your information in one spot, which are going to start helping you do, you're going to be able to react when those come out. And so when you see this on the news, when they're going to come after you, it's okay. When you have your documentation, it's just okay. And because we follow the guidance that existed at the time. So that was a lot. You can tell I'm a little passionate about this. Again, I scour over 40 sites a day. I start in the morning around 6 or 7, and I start going through, seeing what's really important to you right now on this day, on April 29th. And then I can always look back and see what was out there at the time, since some of the actions that a borrower or a lender is going to take, I'm recording these so that when I have to go back and go, what happened on Wednesday, April 29th? What was available? I can leave that there was SBA guidance came out with question number 37 on their website. So I can see that this is when that actually came out, and I relied or didn't rely on that. Have a great day. This is Mike Rasmussen with CPA Straight Talk for small business owners, and can't wait to catch up with you tomorrow.